Hi, my name's Joan. I'm from Ashcroft Medical English. Thank you so much for joining me today. So, as you know, today we're going to be looking at OET Reading Part C, specifically how to identify the writer's attitudes and opinions, because this is a very important thing to be able to do, as specific questions in the test relate to this. Um, so, um, before we move on and dig deeper into that, I'm going to share my screen with you and we'll begin. So, as I've said, we're going to be looking at how to identify the writer's attitudes and opinions. If you don't know me, I'll give you a little bit of background information. I'm an OET All-Star, which means that I give regular and free classes on social media. That's the OET official social media channels and my own as well. I'm a OET premium preparation provider, which means I've been given the highest level of OET teacher training, and you can be assured that if you choose to work with me, you will be given high quality lessons. I'm also a former UK doctor, and I'm here with my main mission to just help you reach your goals. So, enough about me. Let's move on to talking a little bit more about your reading comprehension skills. So, some of you will find reading comprehension easier than others. But even if you don't find it very easy at the moment, you can improve that. You can build the skills required. It does take practice, and of course, as everyone will always tell you, practice makes perfect. But this does take time, so give yourself plenty of time to build your skills, okay? Um, I wouldn't recommend rushing into the test before you're ready. So it's good to get a little bit of support along the way. So make sure that if you are struggling to get the score you need, or you have, tried some of the sample tests and you can see that it's not really going the way it should, seek some help, get some guidance from an OET expert so that you can save time, energy, and money as well in the long run. I am going to give you a free worksheet at the end of this session that relates to this session and will go some way to building your comprehension skills. This is a short session, so there's only so much I can share with you in this time, but I'm going to do my best. But remember, if you need more support, more guidance, I'm there to help. If you want to book a lesson with me, test out how things might be, you can try your first class, and it comes with a 50% discount. So that's something you can think about. There's a link at the end of the session. But on to today's class. Let's focus now on the relevance of what I'm trying to share with you today. So we're going to think about why identifying the writer's attitudes and opinions matters. Okay, so that'll be the first point we'll cover. We'll then move on to the challenges that you might be facing, and I'll explain a little bit about the skills and knowledge that you'll be needing if you're finding that reading comprehension is a little tricky for you at the moment. I will, of course, be sharing some solutions with you, some strategies to use, and giving you the opportunity to practice along with me in class today how you can implement some of these strategies. So, first of all, let's go back to relevance. So, why identifying the writer's attitudes and opinions matters? Well, the main reason is because once you can do this, you will have a deeper level of reading comprehension skills. It is specifically tested for in OET Reading Part C. So, of course, if you can do it well, your score will be higher. I'm going to give you a few example questions that relate to the writer's attitudes and opinions. So, Here's an example of a question from OET Reading Part C, and it actually comes from the sample reading test on OET.com, and it's test one, text one, sleep deprivation. And here you can see the question revolves around what impresses Bob McCarley. Okay, so this is how he feels about something. So this is not factual information. This is more based on Bob McCarley's feelings on something. What impressed him? So moving on, if you look in another one of the sample tests, this one is reading test 5, text 1. This is just one of the examples that relates to attitudes and opinions. And I should emphasize that a number of the questions in reading part C will relate to attitudes and opinions. So it is important. So anyway, moving on. This question relates to what the writer says medical schools should do. Okay, so this is his opinion. Okay, so when you're reading the text, you're going to need to be able to identify when the writer is expressing an opinion. So, what are the challenges that you can face when you're trying to do this? Well, some of the difficulties that candidates face can be that maybe they're missing some vocabulary, maybe they're missing an understanding of some of the phrases used. Maybe they haven't quite understood the structure of the text and what the significance of that structure is. Maybe there's some challenge with being able to read between the lines, or maybe the critical thinking skills required aren't quite there yet. Because for reading part C and top scores in this part of the test, you will need excellent critical thinking skills. So, let's summarize some of the things you'll need to be able to do when you're identifying attitudes and opinions. Okay, you'll need to ask yourself, can I differentiate between fact and opinion? Okay. And you'll also need to ask yourself whether you can notice the impact of modal verbs that are used, something called tentative language, which is language used when we're not 100% certain about what we're stating. And often this can be used when opinions are being expressed. It's also important to be able to notice whether the tone of the writer is positive, negative, or neutral. You'll need to be able to recognize when certain points the writer makes are getting repeated and why they might be doing that. And also to notice when they are presenting evidence to support a point they've made and why they're doing that. Okay? So, the solution to all of this is to give yourself time to build knowledge and skills, know some effective test strategies, and have some classes to learn these things, and then go home and practice. So, what we're going to start with, first of all, is how we're going to start identifying attitudes and opinions. So, here's a tip for you. Try to identify when non factual information is being presented. Okay, so we're going to need to separate fact from opinion. So, opinions, non factual information, can revolve around things like thoughts, feelings, beliefs. So, step number one, separate facts from opinions. So, let's test this out. Let's see what you think about the following little extracts. So, is this fact or opinion that the writer is expressing? I'll read it out to you. According to recent clinical trials, the efficacy of this drug in reducing blood pressure has been consistently demonstrated. Is that fact or opinion? Hopefully, you've seen that this is fact. It's objective information that's being provided, not just simply an opinion of the writer. Let's move on to the next one. What do you think this is? Fact or opinion? Future investigations should focus on understanding which subgroups of patients will benefit most from this drug. Fact or opinion? I'll give you a moment to think about this one. Hopefully, this one's clear too. Here, it's opinion, okay? And it's interesting to notice the modal verb should. This is often used when opinion is being expressed and shared with you, okay? So that's just something to notice. So, tentative language, let's talk about that. Because being able to identify and understand what tentative language is really helps when you're trying to identify facts from opinions and understand that on a deeper level. There's a huge range of words and phrases that can be used when we're using tentative language. And just to be clear, tentative language tends to be used when we're giving opinions, not facts. If you want to explore this deeper in class with me, then I'd love to help you with this. But I will share today with you some things to look out for. Okay, here are some examples. So you might see adverbs, verbs, or certain phrases that show that there's a level of uncertainty. Okay. You might also see modal verbs being used, and these are often used when opinion is being expressed, saying what ought to or what should be done, for example. And again, you can see tentative language being used here with the words can, may, might, could. Okay, so look out for these sorts of words when you're trying to see when the writer's expressing their opinion. Okay, let's try it out then. Where do you see tentative language being used here? I'll read this short extract to you from sample test 5. With increasing superspecialization, practitioners in secondary care disciplines tend to be world experts in narrow clinical areas. They may be enticed by the glamour of academia, but often interact with relatively few patients during their careers. Okay, do you see here any words and phrases that are associated with uncertain language, tentative language? Let's see if you can spot anything. Okay. You can please feel free to put your answers in the comments if you spot something. Test yourself out. Okay, let's see what we've got. Okay, so ignoring the final sentence there since it isn't complete, we can just see in the other sentences that we've got words like tend to, often, maybe. So this is all tentative language. The writer is expressing their opinion. It's not strictly based on facts here. Okay, another quick tip for you. Try and understand what the writer is for or against. Are they giving something the thumbs up or the thumbs down? Quick idea to help you try and identify what the writer's opinion is. Okay, some clues to look for are what do they emphasize, what do they repeat, and what supporting evidence do they give? Something to think about. Okay, moving on to attitudes. Is the writer's attitude positive, negative, or neutral? So, a little tip here is to pay close attention to adverbs and adjectives used, as this can really point you in the right direction. But of course, other words have their hidden meanings, connotations, as it were, where they're suggesting, they make a suggestion in an indirect way. We'll come back to connotations later. What I'd like you to do now is have a little look at this and tell me whether you think the writer's tone is positive, negative, or neutral. With increasing super specialization, practitioners in secondary care disciplines tend to be experts in narrow clinical areas. Is the tone positive? Is it negative? Or is it neutral? What do you think? Okay, so you might have noticed the word narrow being used. And if we use the word narrow, this has this kind of negative sense in terms of the range of expertise in clinical areas. So this has a negative sense to it. So overall, the tone is a little negative here. So, what does connotation mean? I can hear some of you asking this. So, this is a definition from the Cambridge Dictionary, okay? It's a feeling or an idea that's suggested by a word in addition to its basic meaning, okay? So, it's kind of suggests a meaning indirectly. Okay, so something to bear in mind is that as you prepare for OET, there of course are sample materials that you can get online in books, etc. But nothing beats building your skills using authentic materials to keep you engaged, to help you kind of feel the relevance of building this skill, and to expose yourself to an infinite amount of words and phrases that are used in the field. Okay, so I would suggest that whatever your healthcare profession, be it nursing, dentistry, medicine, occupational therapy, whatever it may be, go and look at your professional journals and see if this kind of sparks some interest for you. Okay, so here are just a few resources, and this is just a very, very select group of examples for you. But of course, if you are not a nurse or you're not a doctor, you might also like to look at journals related to your healthcare profession. But these are a great start: the Nursing Times, the BMJ, and the New England Journal of Medicine. Okay. So maybe you can have a look at some of the articles in there. What you might want to do as you're kind of practicing is think about what the current hot topics are in your profession. So, for example, you might want to read about the aging population and the management of chronic diseases, or the role of AI in healthcare, or regulation of physician and anesthesia associates in the NHS. That's a pretty hot topic right now in the UK. Staff shortages and strikes in healthcare. Okay, so you get the idea. Think of things that could interest you and use that to vary up your studying. For example, in the BMJ, I've had a quick look at an article here, and it's about technology and the clinician patient relationship. Now, this is quite topical. We can all feel the impact of AI, for example, in our working lives. So, an article like this, for example, could be of interest to you. And the links here, if you want to go to it at any point. I'm going to just share with you a quick extract from it. Okay, I'll read it out to you. The role of artificial intelligence in healthcare is expanding quickly, with clinical, administrative, and patient facing uses emerging in many specialties. Research on the effectiveness of AI in healthcare is generally weak, but evidence of AI improving doctors' diagnostic decisions is emerging for some focused clinical applications, including interpreting lung pathology and retinal images. In my own field of general practice, the collapse of Babylon, a digital GP service which claimed to use AI, demonstrates how grandiose claims from enthusiasts can belie the difficulties of developing effective AI in complex and nuanced areas of medicine. Okay, so I'll give you a moment to take that text in. What you might have noticed is maybe some of the vocabulary is a little unfamiliar. And definitely the more you read, the more you'll get exposed to new vocabulary, which will make reading part C easier. But equally, don't worry if you don't know every single word. Try and understand it from the context as best you can. So, what I'm going to do now is just show you some of the things that I notice in the writer's language used here. For example, in the first part of the text, for me, the facts are expressed in a neutral tone, pretty neutral and factual. As we go on, though, we start to notice attitudes and opinions being expressed. So, what I'd like you to do is see if you can identify any tentative language being used here and see if you can pick up on the writer's tone. So I'll give you a moment to read through this. What you can do is press pause if you like, have a think, and then press play again once you've had enough time. Okay, so here's what I notice. We do have some tentative language being used, like generally, some, for example. So this is when we're kind of not being 100% certain about what we're saying. And then what's interesting is that we can pick up a lot of words used that give quite a negative tone, such as collapse. Collapse generally has a negative connotation. Claimed to suggest a little bit of doubt there. Grandiose has this negative sense as a word. Belie also has negative connotations. And I think you'll agree that difficulties is generally associated with something negative. So I should say, there are some words here that I think, understandably, you'll find a little challenging, but that's okay. Um, let's have a look at what they mean. So, belie, you can see the meaning here. Show something to be false or hide something. Okay, so this has got a negative sense. Grandiose also has a negative sense. It's got a critical tone to it. It means larger and containing more detail than necessary or intended to seem important or great. Okay, so this has a negative sense to it as well. What I would suggest you do is, if you would like to, test your skills out with some authentic materials. Maybe you'll want to go to the article that we've started looking at today, the links there, and you can read a little bit more about how technology is changing the clinician patient relationship. So, to wrap up today, when you're identifying attitudes and opinions, try to assess whether fact is being expressed by the writer or opinion. Um, you'll need to be able to recognize the impact of modal verbs, tentative language in general, positive, negative, or neutral tone, as well as the following points below, which we haven't had time to dig into deeply today. But as I said, if you need to work on your reading skills further with me, I'm happy to help. Remember, there is a free worksheet that complements this lesson today. So take a note of the link on the screen there. And yeah, hopefully that helps you understand some of the points in today's session. Don't forget that if you need help with OET reading or any other subtest for that matter, book a trial lesson. See what you think of classes with me. Try and understand what's stopping you progress. Get a little advice on how you can improve. Learn a few test strategies and build your language skills. There is a 50% discount at the moment, so why not try it out? The link's there for you. I'll leave it there for today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time. You take care, and I sincerely hope that the session has been helpful for you.